G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff. Now, why is it that women, I mean modern women, think they're the prize in the relationship? Well, the concept is alleged to be baked into religion, particularly several concepts in the Middle East, such as happy wife, happy life. But one particular concept that talks of women as a prize or a precious treasure is Proverbs 31, passages 10 to 11. Now, in certain translations, this passage declares that a capable wife is far beyond pearls, and that an adoring husband has found an unfailing prize. But even in a breakdown of Proverbs, it's mutual. The worth of woman is in her noble character. He who finds a wife finds what is good and receives the favor of the Lord. But they're talking about inner beauty. So never take one passage on its own, because they're talking about highlighting women who are faithful and can be trusted as the prize. Meaning that in a box of M&Ms, you're going to be searching for the chocolate. To be prized. Yeah. I wonder, basically, prize, surprise, and valued have commonality, but have lost meaning over time. But historically, women were put on pedestals since, I would say, the last 300 years. And it's only gotten worse with the rise of dating apps. See, even though religion allegedly put women as the prize, with provisos, there's also humility, as well as many other traits. Again, faithful was not just, I am loyal to you. Faithful had meaning. It had tangible, visible, and social consequences. If you were an unfaithful wife, if you were it was not a good thing to be a Chad. But in the rise of the modern era, with large populations, with people able to move more freely, and the, I suppose, the lack of self regulation in standards. See, the idea that women as a prize have women allegedly raising their standards. Yet we see far too many single mothers, far too many female drug addicts, far too many female criminals to actually say that is a generalization, or even the fact that women as a prize. You look at the number of women who deface themselves, debase themselves, sell themselves. So no, while women historically bore the traditional roles of reproduction and emotional support and light house duties, modern women have become more selective. That is true, but it's been driven politically and driven primarily by predatory sexual behavior, where older women try to get younger women to remove themselves from the dating market by making themselves undesirable. And one way they do that is to get women to think that they are the ultimate prize and that their life, they deserve wealth and luxury. So it's no longer chasing a man who has the means to provide a normal life. Before I continue, this channel is sponsored by you, the viewing audience. So please, consider a purchase today. That's Empire Valves, one word, empirevalves.myshopify.com, your one-stop shop for enchanting treasures based on my writing. So, mass communication and evolutionary selection have converged to create a psychological condition, an artificial narcissism, where women look less forward than before. They plan their lives around handbags and shoes instead of babies and child rearing. Though women have historically been more selective, the reality is this inherent pickiness is leading many to believe that affection and attention must be earned, won, or bought on a constant basis. Constant dating, constant gifts, constant attention. This is what's known as the dating app imbalance, where on modern dating platforms, men way outnumber the number of women, men in very large, disproportionate numbers. And believe it or not, it is a known fact, the majority of non-whites are married, but they seek Western partners, and they often find the most they find that most are not seeking a relationship but seeking praise, and they do. They women don't see the red flags. That's the problem. So in the dating balance, they don't see the red flags, so they disproportionately go for the sweet talker, because the common sense isn't taught in school, like beware of the silver tongue. Like, you've learnt nothing from Bernie Sanders whatsoever. You learnt nothing from most politicians. You learnt nothing from poets and praisers alike throughout the centuries. So the disproportionate number of men to women seeking dating have a disproportionate number of women seeking attention with inflated egos, reinforcing the idea that women hold all the leverage in the matchmaking process, when in reality it's the handful of men who never marry and constantly cycle the younger and younger audience, because usually successful men are in their 30s to 40s. They sort of start in their peer group. Once they've been through their peer group, they go to the one below. And by the time they're in their 50s and 60s, they're still dating 20, 30-year-olds. Less and less 30-year-olds. Now, another problem is what's called the pop culture advice cycle. Right? Popular books like Men Love Bitches have encouraged women to be mean girls, to adopt the mentality, the I am a prize mentality. Now, it is true that there are a proportion of men who do want mean girls because they think, oh, she is going to be mean to all men so she can be trustworthy when I win her over. But because it's an act, it is not a prize, but a red flag. Now, traditional expectations, even amongst trad wives, women are unconsciously relying on. Now, when I say looks, normally women are attracted to like. Like attracts like. The problem is artificial expectations, where even amongst trad wives, the artificial expectation of the suitable partner being based on either religious figures or social media figures, or worse, actors, actresses. Now, some women do model themselves after their favourite actress or model their ideal partner on a successful rock star, as a substitute for their misspent youth where they idolised. So the way to overcome the prize mentality is to not have expectations of individuals beyond yourself. Right? You go for someone who is like you. Same race, same colour, same language, same schooling, and you have built similar hobbies and similar interests over time together. Successful relationships are built over time. And and a growing consensus amongst women, in particular, is what do you bring to the table? Women have destroyed their health, mentally and physically, with high expectations. That instead of valuing the time they have in their productive years, which is only a narrow window of 8 to 12 years, by the way, right? Making all the wrong choices, like valuing emotions over logic. You want someone you don't want an emotional man. You want a decision maker, a provider, not a poet or Mr. Mr. Smooth who can sing like a nightingale. Now, physical traits, women, yes, want to marry up. Taller, stronger. But men who are usually taller, faster, stronger will only want women who are slightly taller than average, faster than the average woman, smarter than the average woman. See, most men, though, where it's been skewed, is, again, men being led by superficial things in the entertainment industry to value the actress. The problem is you a lot of women are sculpting their bodies with butt cheeks, breast implants, um, nose jobs, chin jobs, facials, lifts, um, all sorts of augmentations. But the more surgery you have, the closer you are moving to unhealthy. Your body's been exposed, you're compromised, you're superficial, your basic relationship solely on looks, and you are trying to get someone, and basically, when you don't get that someone, which is, what is it, like 3-4 times more likely to fail than you are to succeed. I mean, men on average, go through 3 to 5 women looking for a partner. How many men do women go through? Which means there's a large pool of men who have been cycled a lot and don't ever get married, not because they're incels. Okay, it's because they're passed over by women because they don't want average. They all think they deserve the 1%. And this is why there's so much angry at the 1%, because as women get older, they get angrier when they don't get their way. Whereas men, as they get older, tend to get calmer more and value their lives and their independence more. That's why relationships after 40 change. And I think, let's be honest, the vast majority out there don't base their relationships on real life or their parents. I don't be worrying about my parents. I want an exciting life, and then whether it's 90210, Gidget. I'm trying to think because I haven't watched TV in that long, but when it comes to the women's expectations, they'll base themselves on Jane Fonda, Jermaine Greer, Jennifer Lawrence. The louder, sometimes the uglier the woman, the more power she has in the community. And so women have been bombarded every day with negativity on a grand scale. And because women biologically accept a woman's word more than she does a man's, and we don't actually know why or how this works, but many women can be led astray by a stranger just because they're talking to a woman telling her she deserves better. Now, in the extreme, it's created a transactional society. And these are primarily found in cities where women went from homemakers to nightclubs to from traditional lifestyles to the fast-paced modern life. The thing is, our bodies, already at 30, can't keep up with that lifestyle. But see, there's the cope and seethe of, and this is the biggest red flag. Anybody who says I'm here for a good time, not a long time, is a red flag, a walking red flag. Any man with open shirt, gold chain, red flag. Women with lots of jewelry, red flag. The shinier the shoes, the more expensive the handbag, red flag. And these are all what's called cultural conditioning. People who don't have your best interest at heart only want you to part with more and more of your money on the unnecessary, the luxuries of life. And and trust me, amongst Gen Z, there is a growing number of youth who value saving, who value, uh, smelling like soap instead of perfume. That's a good thing. There are many good things to report about Gen Z and a growing number of people who reject cultural conditioning. Now, cultural conditioning is the extremely unrealistic lifestyles that are presented as ordinary people. Bewitched. Well, Darren was an advertising executive. In that period, they earned twice to 4 to 5 times the average wage. Most shows, right? Lawyers, again, overvalued, overpriced, underworked. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of lawyers who go, no, we're not. No. Oh, please. I'm talking about the TV show lawyers, okay? Where, now, and when it comes to, like, blue collar, the closest, they're always schmucks. They're always, how did he get her? I always ask myself, and it's the worst kind of propaganda is comedy today, right? Now, I think that the only reason it works is cultural weakness, right? Cultural conditioning, right? We take away common sense in schools. Why? Because we have cultural Marxism, we have the teachers and the unions and the indoctrinators in the universities all pumping out conformists, leading people to quit or bullying people out of teaching if they're not into the latest fad or the latest indoctrination, I should say. And there's no pushback. There's no one suing Bernie Sanders for trying to, or AOC for violation of civil rights, because they can hide behind the fact they're just politicians with opinions. But they want to take away your private property. That's a violation of your rights. And none of them give up their private property, right? Most socialists today are so transparent, and so many feminists are so transparent that all they want is more power, more wealth, right? That it's just like feminism perpetuates anger so that you don't stop and think. So, in order to have a healthy lifestyle, a healthy life, right, we've reached a point where, we are realizing that relationships are being politicized in order to create a monoculture. And there's no pushback yet. But we are seeing what we see, the cracks. Where now and again there's a protest, but right now they're not momentum, right? Where there's always a protest, there's always pushback, there's always rejection, where there's always a gaggle of teachers being confronted by a congress of parents, where teachers are sued. I wouldn't say harassed, do not bully, but basically sued, taken to formal complaint processes for their actions. Where parents realize, and a lot of people have, that 2 incomes is a trap, right? There's a lot of women, and I've seen it, although the predominant number of women are Chinese. I don't know if that's just how the algorithms work, but a number of Chinese women I've noticed, want to return to the trad life of one parent, one income. That is, there's a provider and a parent. The parent stays at home and the provider provides. And, you know, um, again, this comes from the government driving inflation. Government increases spending. They need to increase revenue. So they can't increase taxes, so they increase property values. Every year, the property values go up. They say, oh, well, they get you to treat your property like an investment instead of a family asset where you, then your son, and then his son. I mean, houses aren't even built to last a decade anymore. And we're just only starting to see that. Can you imagine? Oh, there's 500-year-old cottages out there. Now, that's because we've changed the way buildings are built. Buildings used, and they go, oh, that's because of hurricanes and storms and disasters and fires. No, those are cope and see. The government changes building standards to drive up the cost of building. They increase the number of inspections to increase the cost of the construction. They delay the construction, forcing people to pay extra to get the inspections and approvals. I've heard of houses sitting for months before waiting for approvals. Now, there's a growing consensus that only a few people have successful relationships. That is not true. Up until the 1950s, the divorce rate was almost negligible. Women have consciously chosen to destroy relationships thinking they can get better. Look around, folks. Higher homelessness, higher drug use, higher rates of depression, higher rates of self-deletion, and higher rates of growing single. No, growing numbers are single. Women haven't created a better world. The matriarchy has failed. But why do they still think they're the prize? Because they are so angry, so into that insular, that Disney fairy tale that Prince Charming is going to, and Mother Nature or the Wicked Witch or at this point, God is going to bless her, and suddenly everything is, all her dreams come true. Just to have to, so, and then when that finally dawns on them that they're wrong, their ego can't take it, and usually they're too old for anyone. Like, they become Rosie O'Donnell, right? Now, I believe, right, you have a grind mindset. We all have a breaking point though, and we have a crossroads now where I believe, right, where governments have to make a choice, and sooner or later we're going to make it for them. Now, it's not a left or a right thing anymore, and we always hear about the millionaires and billionaires from the likes of Bernie Sanders, but the reality is they're talking about themselves. And it's the same with women. When women who talk about the prize and how there's no good man, they're talking about themselves. So when people complain, where's the proof? And I think this is the difference. If more of us use common sense, I think we just basically are going to watch Gen Z plow through. They're going to watch the older generations die off. and they're just going to make a list, and they probably make now. Religion was a way I think lifestyles continued, right? Successful people, right? And now, hear me out. I think the likes of stories about Zeus and Marathon and all these other things are a mixture, right? Culture built up around collective stories. Now, I'm not questioning the Bible, but I'm just saying it was a means it wasn't a means to control people. It was a means to give you the tools of success without having to sit down with you every day and try and hammer it into you, because we didn't have free time. And we still don't have enough free time to sit down and spend up to 20 years hammering away, right? So we gave that responsibility to a few, and we gave them money to survive so that they can hammer away. So you had the priest who would hammer away and would basically, you would still have a society with diversity of thought. You didn't have women all lining up for the poet. You would have people in different backgrounds marrying into those backgrounds, and occasionally when someone rose up in success, they, so you had now, the problem is when it became when artificial classes were formed in order to perpetuate power for generations. And this, again, is a tool of the government, not the tool of the people. Right? They keep talking about the millionaires and billionaires, yet they have no power, right? Literally. They can lobby government, they can make suggestions, but at the end of the day, the power rests not even with the people, but with the bureaucratic decision machine and the representatives. And so until, and they keep talking about direct democracy. They don't want direct democracy, because what do? They bully people. That's what the left do, right? Protest, they bully people. What is the first thing the left outlaw? Protesting. What do they complain about a police state? What's the first thing they generate? A police state. So the idea that women are the prize is a political tool to create large numbers of white women who are toxic. The problem is that idea that the prize is spreading globally, and we're now seeing the destruction of the human race before our very eyes. Now, again, not religion. I think Tolkien said it best. Tolkien, evil cannot create. I think that was Tolkien. Yeah, it's Malice. Tolkien mythology. It wasn't only Tolkien. It actually comes from Augustine theory, which is Catholic theology from Augustus, the Roman emperor. But it is commonly credited Tolkien, but he himself got it from Augustus. Very interesting. So, in conclusion, proof, right? If you have value, you prove it. If you, through hard work, through the product you create, through the friendships that you value, and meaning in everything you do, and you come out on top. If you don't, you don't. It's as simple as that. And there is no saving the fool. You let the feminists die off. You let these toxic communities die off. And eventually, right, things right themselves every time. The ship Right? A ship with a good keel will always right itself. That's right with a W, I believe. See, throughout history, final conclusion is that right, might does not make right. Hard work makes right. When you take away everything that is good, you have the left. So the left is what's left, and the right. So the right will always succeed, and the left will ultimately always fail. So do not despair. Do not, for a moment, if you can weather the storm, right, of the next couple of years, it will come out better. We're already seeing improvements. We're just not appreciating what we have. And we're not building on what we've got while maintaining what we have. But we will. And all it takes is persistence. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. You support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video. Bye for now.